Hi, welcome to Mondays with Maury. First, we want to thank everyone for submitting your questions on our social media accounts for Maury. We got some great questions, and we'll spend the next couple of months going through some of those on our next few videos. So thanks again. Today, we are approaching what would have been Mr. Graham's 100th birthday in just a couple of days. So we're going to answer a couple of your questions, but also just have Maury share some insights and stories from Mr. Graham's personal life. So Maury, tell us, a lot of people ask this question, what was Billy Graham's daily routine like when he was home?
Of course, getting up and coming to the kitchen and getting his own bowl of cereal and banana and making coffee. And pretty much after that in the morning, his secretary would probably send up a folder of mail that he'd read through, and then a lot of times he might need her to come up and he would dictate mail and that sort of thing. And then, of course, whatever Ruth may have had going that particular day, they both enjoyed working on books together, so it's possible that they would be doing that. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Then just take a walk outside with the dogs and the cat, and after that, just into the day.
Yeah. Did he have a specific did he spend some time in devotion or in the Bible and the Word?
Usually,
quiet time?
Well, that's true. It's possible in the morning that if he happened to bring his Bible with him to the kitchen, which he often did, then whoever happened to might be part of the household staff that would be around, he would invite everybody to sit down, then he would read and pray, and then otherwise he would probably have waited and done that with Ruth, back in their room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me maybe a funny story about Billy Graham that you remember, maybe on travels or something like that.
One sort of comical, with him having grown up on the farm here in Charlotte, they stayed out in the country. It was a little tiny hotel in Scotland, and so we had dropped them off after the meeting, and then the next day Ms. Graham said that they got out on this beautiful moonlit night, and they could see way in the distance, I suspect it was as much as a half a mile to a mile away, they noticed a flock of cattle. And Mr. Graham started making all these noises like he would have done growing up on the farm. And sure enough, all of the cattle came right up to the hotel. And I wish that they had had a camera. That would have been a fun picture. But then when the innkeeper came the next morning, that had never happened before. And they just, until they figured out by asking around who worked the night before what it could have been, it was just so shocking to them. But that must have been really comical. I wish there was a photograph of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'd be nice. Back before smartphones. Maury, tell me, if you will, maybe what are some things that maybe you miss about Mr. Graham since his passing?
Well, as he got older, he walked less. We had to use a wheelchair a lot. And I think just coming up in an afternoon and he'd be maybe sitting in the front yard and wanting to take a walk along the driveway or around the yard and that sort of thing. And I always tried to be sensitive about if he was working on a book, working on a sermon, getting ready for a crusade, I would just if he just wanted to talk a little bit while we were walking, but I didn't always have a list of questions. Everybody mentioned to me on occasion, do you keep a list of questions to always be ready to ask him every time you're with him? And I said, no, I don't think he would appreciate that. But being able to just walk and talk and listen to what he had to say and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Maury, thank you so much for sharing, and we thank everybody for tuning in. And you can check our website, billygrahamlibrary.org, this week, as we will continue to honor Mr. Graham as we approach his what would have been his 100th birthday.